Why Roblox's biggest game failed instantly. This is talking about Garden Horizons. Let's get into it.
Game was supposed to be the final nail in the coffin that destroyed Grow a Garden, but instead today the game has less than 2,000 players on average and is down
Yep.
over 95% since its peak player counts just a few weeks ago. So how exactly could one of the most hyped games in Roblox's history die out so fast? And what exactly is the story of Garden Horizons, what was supposed to destroy Grow a Garden forever, and why has it failed so catastrophically? But before I get into it, feel free to like this video and subscribe, it mean the world to me, but either way, let's get right into this story because it is a roller coaster. So to start off, let's give a little bit of context. Grow a Garden is a game that you probably likely know and have probably played in the past because it was the
biggest video game ever. One Roblox game bigger than like the biggest Roblox, not the biggest Roblox game, the biggest game. Biggest video
game
game.
and actually biggest video game in the history of video games. At its
Yep.
absolute peak, Grow Garden had 22 million players at one single moment. 22 million people playing the game at one single time. That meant that it was the biggest game in the history of video games for just a little bit of time, and every single update was pulling tens of millions of players for many months. However, the game started to die out. I made a video talking about it, but to summarize very simply, the game got boring, people did not want to play it as much, and other games took its popularity, like for example Steal a Brain Rot. And the game also died out due to issues with the developer Jandel and the development team having a lot of issues, updates becoming less and less common, and things going wrong like delayed updates and stuff like that that just made the community not happy. People had started to hate Grow a Garden. The same people who were its biggest supporters became its biggest haters and had decided to quit the game, leading the game to dwindle in play.
I was biggest supporter, but I'm not a hater.
Players, going from averaging
I was just disappointed.
hundreds of thousands, if not
That's all I'm gonna say. I was just very disappointed.
millions of players down to tens of thousands, sub 100k, and even down into the low tens to 20,000s. It's now rare for you to see the game over even 50,000 players. So with the game being positioned in this place where people were bored of it, annoyed at the developers, and moving on to different things, there was a gap for a game like this on Roblox, and that is where some developers by the name of Dawn Digital come into the picture. Now Dawn Digital was basically a massive team of a lot of developers, headed by an individual named Kindbrock, I believe that's how it's pronounced. Now as the downfall of Grow Garden started to happen, people got mad at the developers, Dawn Digital came in and started to promote the heck out of their game. They got people hyped up as much as they could, hyping up trailers and videos and footage of the game that made people very excited. Garden Horizons was posed as the next Grow a Garden. It was made better, it looked better, but it had the same base system. It was higher quality, they promised updates more often, and it was basically just Grow a Garden, but better. The developers promised to listen to the fans, the quality of the game was supposed to be better.
Why does my Roblox face cam do that? Whenever I put on my glasses, this is what happens. Like, I'm not even blinking. And then, especially that like, if you watched earlier in the video, you know what I'm talking about.
And it was hyped up so much that the trailers were getting millions of views, and
look,
eventually on February 22nd of 2026, Garden Horizons released. Almost instantly, the game hit the front page, pulling over 100 to 200,000 concurrent players, and averaging almost 100,000 players for the first week of its release. The same core loop was there, but it just seemed better, and the developers were ready to do massive updates. They were ready to make frequent updates, make the game better, have it be cleaner, and be a better experience. And the previous Grow a Garden community was so ready for it. The game got millions of visits within the first couple days as people finally felt that feeling they felt back when they first played Grow a Garden for the first time. And early on, there was a ton of YouTubers making videos on it. However, just as it started to get popular, people, including myself,
dude, if you go to my YouTube channel, okay, you go to my YouTube channel, you go to live streams, and then you scroll down. Garden Horizons Countdown. Man, I streamed for 2 hours. Man, I was
Myself
so
started to
excited.
notice some
So
issues.
excited.
The reasons that Grow Garden originally died, specifically getting bored of the game loop and issues like that, had not really been fixed. People had started to realize that Garden Horizons was the same game, it just looked better. You can compare the two and say, wow, Garden Horizons looks way better and maybe has better animations and stuff, but is it not just the exact same experience? Is it not just the same game that looks a little bit different? And the thing is, once the first weekly update came out that everyone was so excited for, there was nothing really special added to the game. The difference was between this game and Grow Garden is Grow Garden had massive admin abuse events that were hyped up massively that had gotten the entire platform around, and that's what got it to its massive 22 million player peak during one of the events. The early on updates in Grow Garden felt like massive events and parties and experiences with storylines and stuff like that, whereas Garden Horizons, they just kind of added a few things. It started to feel like the same thing as Grow Garden, and the reasons that people left Grow Garden had become the reasons that Garden Horizons started to lose those players. By the second week of the game's release, it was already dumping down to 60,000 or even 50,000 players. And by early March, just about half a month after the game released, it had already cut players in half, down to 46,000 and even 37,000 players on average those days. But the thing is, it wasn't just dying, as cracks were showing under the surface that would put the game to a very early grave, that would prove that the game would never truly revive. Because there started to be some issues going on inside of the game involving the developers as the cracks started to show. A great video by Saitonade explains what happened, but I'll summarize it fairly simply. You see, on March 10th, a developer by the name of Tim was fired from the game. The owner of the game publicly said it was a difficult but necessary decision, and said Tim mainly did admin work and not core design of the game. So people honestly thought it would not be much of an issue. At the same time, however, people were reporting issues inside of the game, like exploits that were not fixed, like duplicating seeds and destroying the in-game economy and value of certain things that genuinely made people mad. Because when a game like this releases and there's so much value to the rare plants that people get, if there's a glitch or hack that gets those for free and the developers don't fix it as quick as possible, it can damage the economy a lot. And so tension started to grow between the developers as it seemingly got worse and worse. Someone by the name of 7dev publicly left the team, saying it was creative differences, and said that the weekly update pacing that Grow Garden once had that they were trying to replicate was just too much for him. However, while that seemed like, again, just a developer who couldn't handle the pressure, he came out later saying that the real issues were poor communication from the developers, a lack of transparency on how much the developers were actually making, and the team starting to...
The past 3 weeks, they haven't had any updates, so I kind of just quit.
Shrink, because as the game had released and the demand got way larger for more updates, bug fixes, and stuff like that, developers just started leaving the team because they couldn't handle it. It genuinely is a lot of work to own a Roblox game. To be adding updates in a game and being demanded a ton of things by hundreds of thousands of fans is a lot of pressure that some people can't just handle. And so 7dev saying that they would not get information on the next update until even just a day before it was actually supposed to release, it genuinely started to become a massive issue. As issues got worse, like the pay issues and the update challenges, at some point all the developer team decided to walk out at once. They literally just left. They left, leaving no developers in the group, and developers just leaving all the Discord servers and disconnecting. And with this walkout, it basically put the nail in the coffin to kill the game. If you were to look at the wiki, you guys would see that every single developer is under the page of former members. All of them left. The only guy left is the owner, Kindbrock, and everyone else is gone from the team. And so, following all the developers leaving, the usual weekend update
I think Devloaf was the first person to leave.
Disappeared. It never happened. And that day was the day that the game was fully dead, because at that point it was averaging under 10,000 players and it has not seen any levels higher than it did on that day. Since then, the game is averaging less than 2,000 players a day, and no YouTubers are making videos on it really because there's no updates. There's no updates happening to the game at all. There's no reason for people to play it if nothing's gonna happen to it. Like, what's the point of playing a game if it's never gonna get any more updates and just gonna be abandoned? And so with this downfall of the game and the fan base for Grow Garden style games still wanting to play something, Grow Garden has seen somewhat of a little bit of a resurgence in a way where now it's averaging around 40 to 50,000 players, which is obviously not as much as it used to.
They hit 1 million players the other day.
It is a little bit more than the 20 to 30,000 they were averaging in early March, as they're now going up towards around the high 30s or 40s. Obviously nothing where it used to be, but genuinely people are realizing that despite as bad as Grow Garden was, at least the developers are still working on the game. And apparently there's actually hype that Grow Garden posted on their account saying only a matter of time, showing what might be Grow a Garden 2, which could
Yep.
genuinely be insane and officially, of course, mean that nobody will want to play Garden Horizons any longer. If Grow a Garden 2 is real and actually going to happen, hopefully in the next couple months, then that is truly the point that Garden Horizons will be fully dead. Not that it's really alive at all anymore. And it's pretty sad to think about how Garden Horizons was truly meant to be one of the most successful games in Roblox's history,
Yeah.
following off of the success of Grow a Garden, but it just failed. The game failed. We saw the original downfall of Grow a Garden come from things like a lack of updates, and so Garden Horizons having the exact same issue just a couple weeks after release showed the developers were not ready and were not prepared to run a game like this. There was genuinely so much potential to this game, and I honestly remember enjoying it, but it just wasn't anything special. It sort of felt like a money grab to me. What could have been a special reskin and upgrade of the game that had way more features and systems felt more like someone had slapped on a new coat of paint, had designed new things, made it look kind of cool, and then just released it without actually making the original systems that were so boring or that people got bored of in Grow a Garden yet again. Basically, it was just not that different. And it's honestly sad because there was a lot of potential for this game, and I wonder what it could have been if the developers had gotten better communication, had gotten better pay rates, and if the developer team had stayed around. Imagine the development team had stayed around, they kept posting weekly updates, and they made the game better. It likely would be averaging above 20 to 30,000, if not, going up back towards the 50,000 player mark, and the game would be reviving by this time if they were doing the things that they should be doing. But instead, they followed in the same course as Grow a Garden, just on a way faster scale, abandoning the game and ruining it entirely. I'm honestly interested to hear what you guys think in the comments down below, so tell me your thoughts on this. Do you guys think this game could have been way bigger than it was? Was there a chance that this actually beat the records of Grow a Garden, or do you think it was just a hyped up game that had no substance to it that never would have actually made it? Tell me what you think in the comments down below, but either way, that's going to be it. Have an amazing day and take care.
W.
Get Zaxby's fingers in.
I want Zaxby's. Alright, well, I don't know why I just lagged. Credits to this guy, Coil. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Yeah, credits. W. Here, I'm gonna join his Roblox group. There you go, buddy. Alright. Thank y'all for watching. Bye-bye. Let me go make the thumbnail. Bye-bye.